Hello everyone, welcome to the lecture second of Richard Hughes' book, The Principles and Practice of Homoeopathy. The lecture 2, it deals with the word organon. Well, in this lecture, Richard Hughes tells you about the different editions of organon, what are the slight changes which are there in the third, fourth, and fifth edition of organon. It should be remembered that Richard Hughes has taken only up to the fifth edition of organon as the best. He hasn't included the sixth edition of organon. So the fifth edition of organon is considered to be the correct one, as the sixth edition of organon, there were many changes made, as a result of which many people think that the work is not correct. So Richard Hughes also is of the opinion that the fifth edition of Organon is the best. So he has stuck to the first five editions only. And also he has told about other important features of Organon, which we shall see as we go by. So in the lecture 2, the Organon, Richard Hughes says that the first issue, as you all know, or the first edition of Organon was in 1810. Second edition in 1819, he described it as the augmented edition. The third edition in 1824 described it as the improved edition. Fourth edition in 1829 described it as both the augmented and improved. And the fifth and the last edition in 1833 described as both augmented and improved. So as I told you, he's only taken the fifth edition as the last edition because it is more genuine. The origin of Sora appeared in the fourth edition of Organon, theory of drug dynamization of medicines in the fifth edition, and importance to doctrine of vital force formed the essential part of philosophy, and the earliest mention of this was in the fourth edition. In the fifth edition, a full statement about vital force was given in aphorism 9 to 16. The knowledge of development of the textbook of Organon can be obtained by the translation of Dr. Dudgeon, issued by Hahnemann Publishing Society in 1893. It contained an appendix containing the full exhibition of the changes the work had undergone between 1810 to 1833. In Euflan's journal, many of Dr. Hahnemann's writings were cited. As you all know, Euflan was an allopathic physician, and he had a journal in which they used to demonstrate the efficacy of their system. So Dr. Hahnemann also being an eclectic physician, he also started writing in this journal, but it was about homeopathy. So the important writings which he wrote were in 1792 on a new principle for ascertaining the curative power of drugs. 1797 are the obstacles to certainty and simplicity in practical medicine insurmountable. 1806, the medicine of experience. In 1810, the first edition of Organon was published, as that time had come to tell the full departure from the existing system of medicine. So as you can see, from 1792 onwards till 1810, Dr. Hahnemann wrote articles, but in 1810, he was bold enough to exhibit the first edition of Organon and tell that now this system of medicine which he had invented, that is homeopathy, was the best as compared to all the other existing systems of medicine today. The name of Organon was obtained from Aristotle's various treatises on logic. The title of his work was Organon. So as you all know, the origin of the word organon, how it came, it was taken from the book of Aristotle, which was labeled as Organon. It was followed by Lord Bacon's book on logic, which was called Novum Organon, which was the second part of his book Insuratio Magna. So you all know Lord Bacon was a logician. He believed in inductive logic. He wrote a book on logic known as Novum Organon, as a result of which the origin of the word organon originated. The object of his book was to furnish the world a better mode of investigations of truth. So actually, Dr. Hahnemann wrote the Organon book because he wanted to tell the world that this book, what he has written, is a much better mode of treatment, that is homeopathy, and it has no side effects. So he wanted to bring out the truth to the world, as a result of which he wrote the Organon book, and he revised it many times to make it perfect. Hahnemann's first work called Hahnemann's first called his work as Organon of the Rational Medical Science, that is Heilkunde. However, from the second edition of Organon, it was changed to Organon of the Healing Art, that is Heilkunst. So, as you all know, the first edition title was Organon of the Rational Medicine, Medical Science. Second edition, it was Organon of the Healing Art. In the first edition, the word rational was dropped out and replaced by true or genuine. So it was done to avoid the rational criticism. Hence the change from the word Heilkunde to Heilkunst, that is the rational medicine to Organon of the Healing Art. On the title page of the first edition, Hahnemann placed a motto from the poet Gellert, which had rendered into English as, "The truth we mortals need, for us bless and keep, the all-wise slightly cover over, but did not bury deep." So, as you all know, in the first edition, Gellert's poem was written, and from the second edition onwards, it was replaced by the word "Aude sapere," meaning dare to be wise. In each edition of Organon, Hahnemann wrote a separate preface. So, as you all can see, even in the sixth edition, there's a preface. So, and all the editions of Organon which he had written, 1 to 5, the preface was there. In the first 3 editions, it consisted of a series of unintentional homeopathic cures. So, basically, the preface of the first 3 editions, he gave enough examples of unintentional homeopathic cures. Now, what do we mean by the word unintentional homeopathic cures? It means that by chance, whatever medicine was given according to that pathy, it was similar in nature, as a result of which the patient got cured unintentionally. So it was just the luck on the part of the physician who was treating the patient. Whatever medicine he had given, fortunately, was similar in action, as a result of which the cure took place. So basically, as you all know, different systems of medicine never cured, they only gave some temporary relief to the patient. So the allopathic physicians, their intention was to cure, but they always claimed that they had cured the disease, but actually it wasn't so. Therefore, the word unintentional homeopathic cures, that is just by chance or just by luck, because the medicine was similar in action, the people got cured. In the second and third edition, he described the destructive criticism of the existing theories and the mode of treatment. So, here also, he will, Dr. Hahnemann, he tells you about whatever criticism was there about the existing theories of what is disease, how does it take place, what is the cause of the disease, etc. So they believed only in the material cause of the disease, that is the materia peccans or the prima causa morbi. And as a result of which, Hahnemann, he he lashed out at these physicians and said that this was totally wrong. You have to look beyond it. That is what? Into the dynamic aspect. And the different modes of treatment which was given, such as isopathy, topopathy, enantiopathy, all that had been described. In the fourth edition, he describes the allopathic mode of treatment. So in the fourth edition, mostly the focus is on the allopathic mode of treatment. In the fifth edition, he describes homeopathy and pushes the other system of medicine at the background or puts it only in footnotes. So in the fifth edition preface, Dr. Hahnemann concentrates only on homeopathy, the new system of medicine, and he used to describe how useful this system of medicine is and it should be adopted. And he pushes all the other systems of medicine like allopathy, enantiopathy, antipathy, heteropathy, topopathy at the background, or only puts it in footnotes, so that our main focus is only on homeopathy. The Organon proper, that is the fifth edition, contains 295 aphorisms with lengthy footnotes. Each aphorism is complete in itself and has a definite outline. So if you would read the fifth edition, you could see that each aphorism would be quite complete and it had definitely a good framework. The structure of each aphorism remains unchanged throughout the successive editions. So, however, the structure remains the same. And in the first edition, in the third aphorism, the word rational is used. In subsequent editions, it has been replaced by the word true practitioner of the healing art. Next, Richard Hughes says that the three most important or wanted points written are the knowledge of the morbid state, that is the disease, which supplies the indications through symptoms, the knowledge of medicinal powers, which are instruments to combat the disease, and the knowledge of choose and administer the indicated remedy. So he had highlighted these 3 points, saying that the knowledge of disease will be only got through the, or rather will be only known through the expressions, that is the signs and symptoms. And in order to combat the disease, we have to have the knowledge of the medicinal powers, that is our homeopathic dynamized medicines. And last point, it said that the knowledge of how to choose and how to administer the indicated remedy also should be there. In the first part, in the aphorism or the structure of the book, that is the 5th edition, in the first part, aphorism 1 to 70 is the doctrinal part or the theoretical part. Second part, aphorism 71 to 294, is the practical part. So initially, Dr. Hahnemann explains to you the theory of homeopathy, what is homeopathy, who is the sick, what is cure, what are the knowledges of a physician, what are the obstacles to cure, what are the causes of the diseases in homeopathy, what is totality of symptom, and what happens when two dissimilar or similar disease meet together in an individual, primary, secondary action, etc. Okay, and the second part is the practical part. That is, he describes to you the case taking, the drug proving, the homeopathic posology, diet and regimen, intermittent diseases, mental diseases, and the auxiliary mode of treatment. So basically, it deals with the practical part. The doctrinal part can be summed up as the patient can be cured by taking into account the totality of symptoms. So his main focus on the doctrinal part was nothing but about the totality of the symptoms. So the totality of the symptoms is the only indication of curing the individual. The curative indication of a drug can only be perceived through drug proving on a healthy human being. And naturally, the instruments to combat the diseases are our drugs, and that knowledge can be attained through the process of drug proving naturally on a healthy human being. All experience teaches us that the medicine chosen on antagonistic mean never cures the disease. Furthermore, he says that naturally, if we would take or choose a medicine on opposite means or on antagonistic means, it will never cure the disease. It will only give some temporary relief, or it may aggravate the condition. So it only aggravates the condition and at its best palliates the disease. That is, give it, as I told you, just temporary relief. So antagonistic meaning what? For diarrhea, give a medicine for constipation. So we are doing the totally opposite. Thus, the only method which remains is the homeopathic system of medicine, which treats the individual on the basis of the law of similia and administers the single simple remedy in the pure form. So therefore, he says that if we would see logically, if we would deduce or use deductive logic, and you would argue and then come to a final point saying that the homeopathic system of medicine is the best, wherein it is based on the law of similars and it includes the administration of a single simple remedy in the pure form or in the unadulterated form. In FL 71, Hahnemann asks 3 questions and answers it in the remaining of the book. So the first question is, how is the physician to ascertain what is necessary to be known in order to cure the disease? Second question, how is he to gain the knowledge of the instruments adapted for the cure of the natural disease, that is the pathogenetic power of medicines? And the third question, what is the most suitable method of employing this artificial morphogenic agent, that is the medicines, for the cure of natural disease? So now let us see the answers to these questions. So the first question answer is, he gives the rule of the examination of the patient. That is what? How is he to ascertain what is necessary in order to know to cure the disease? So in order to cure the disease, we have to, number one, have the proper examination of the patient. So the rules of examining the patient are given. Then the second question is that how is it to gain the knowledge of the instruments adapted to cure the natural disease, that is the pathogenic powers of the medicine. So the pathogenic powers of the medicine can be known by proving the medicines on the healthy human being. That is the process of drug proving. And lastly, what is the most suitable methods for employing these artificial morphic agents or medicines for the cure of natural disease. So it says the determination of similarity, the choice and repetition of the dose, the preparation of the drug, diet and regimen is to be observed and so forth. So this is a very long point. The long answer is there, in which we have to see naturally on similar basis. We have to know in detail about the preparation of the drug, about the homeopathic posology, also the auxiliary line of treatment, which will include the diet and regimen, and so on and so forth. The simplicity of Hahnemann is seen in his writings, which are free from hypothesis. So Richard Hughes is quite an important point he mentions. He says that the Hahnemann simplicity is seen in his writings, which are free from hypothesis. That means what? Whatever he wrote it as a fact. He wrote it as a truth. And they want any hypothesis or any abstract or any false theories which Dr. Hahnemann put. Whatever he observed, he put it down and he said that it was the truth, or it was the truth. It is complete within itself also. Dr. Hahnemann emphasizes that the physician is a craftsman. He practices with his art and skill rather than what knowledge he has from his qualifications. So therefore, Dr. Hahnemann, he always emphasized that homeopathy is always an art and science. He said, no matter how much qualified you may be, but if you do not have the art to prescribe, you will be a failure in practice. You can stand out first in college, you can stand out first in the university, you can obtain many degrees, but in practice, if you cannot apply the art, you are a thorough failure. So therefore, he says, he compares a physician to a craftsman. A craftsman also, with his art, he does certain craft. So as a result of which, the physician also has to have an art or a skill from which he can choose the correct medicine. So his art is associated with the science of physiology and pathology. So naturally, art is associated with the science of what? Since we are studying medicine, it will be the physiology and the pathology. That is what is normal and what is abnormal. So he must know what is normal to see in an individual and what abnormal or what abnormality is there or what is abnormal to be picked up, to be perceived, and to find the correct remedy. It can be compared to what chemistry is to agriculture and what astronomy is to navigation. So he said that the art can be compared to what chemistry is to agriculture and astronomy is to navigation. So in order to have a proper agriculture idea, you have to know the different chemicals which are used in agriculture. Similarly, in astronomy, in navigation also, you have to know the different stars or the knowledge about the stars or astronomy. The greatest value of Hahnemann's method is that it dwells upon the sphere of art. So again, Richard Hughes emphasizes that it always it rotates around the main important sphere of art. That homeopathy is an art. He compares it to general medicine and says that its great weakness is to the applied science rather than an art. So he compares it to the old school or general medicine, and he says that the general medicine's greatest weakness is that they will always apply to the science and they never think it is an art. He furthermore says that maladies are studied from the view of the physician who is an expert in his field and does not attribute it to the art of prescribing. So therefore he says that whatever remedies are given in the general medicine, they are studied by the physician who's an expert in his field, and that's all. But he doesn't attribute it to the art of prescribing. That is what they've got all theoretical knowledge, but they do not have any practical knowledge in order to apply it with the art. He says that the physician is thorough in his diagnosis, but helpless in treating the sick. Now, since the old school of physicians, they believed in different theories, so probably they were good at diagnosis, but they were totally in opposite by treating the sick. They could not treat the sick, but they claimed that they have cured the disease by giving drugs which were totally useless or which they thought were useful for a specific condition, because nothing had been proved, nothing had been, uh, nothing was concrete. It was just a theory, just a hypothesis, it was just a gesture, or they used to build castles in the air. Thus, they should recognize medicine as an art of healing and cultivate it accordingly. So, Richard Hughes says that it's high time that the old school physicians recognize medicine as an art of healing and not only a science, and accordingly, you have to cultivate your art in order to be a successful physician. So that's all what he wants to say in short about the second chapter, the Organon. Now the third chapter is a continuation of the second chapter. We shall see that in the next video. So if you think you are benefited by seeing this video, please do subscribe, share, like, comment, and forward. Thank you very much.